Yes.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the status quo so couples can thrive as their most authentic selves. Today on the show, I have very special guests. For the first time, we have a conscious masculinity coach, Jakob. I found him while scrolling on Instagram, as we do. I found a post and it really resonated with me and things that my clients are navigating through. So then I ended up going on his page and just scrolling for probably like a whole hour of just like through the content. And I was just amazed by the authenticity and the practicality. And you could feel the embodiment of his work as a lived experience into teaching, which is what I love to bring onto the show. So it's not just theory, but it's a actual like, okay, I'm like going crazy. How do I actually do this work? So Jakob, welcome. I love what you say about heal the boy within and lead as the man, which is literally just gold. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for your time today on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really nice to be here. It's really nice to be here.
Amazing. So, talk to us a little bit about your own personal journey before we dive
hmm
into all my questions.
Yeah.
How did you start this work? I know we talked a little bit about that, but like, what was happening in your personal life that told you something has to change?
hmm So it started with my relationship because this was the first relationship I have ever been in that was so deep for me.
Mm,
And it started actually like a deep trauma bonding. Now, when I look back, I couldn't see it back then, but when I now look back to the beginning of my relationship, I was searching for a substitute for my mom because I was raised by my mom. My dad left the family pretty early and I saw him, but he was constantly busy. He was a businessman and always canceled the dates when he wanted to pick me up. So yeah,
mm,
I mainly was raised by my mom, and I pretty early learned also that being a man is not so good. It's like it was a weird feeling because
yeah.
I always got disappointed by my dad, who was like the main masculine figure in my life.
Yeah.
And I also had my mom, who was constantly disappointed by men in her life. I don't want to go too deep
Mm,
in that, but
right.
she didn't do it consciously, but subconsciously, she always wanted me to be different to other men. She always wanted to be me to be like
Ah,
the good guy, who was not like your father, not like other men. And the intention was
mm,
good. But the problem is, what I learned was having flaws, having mistakes is not accepted. That's not so nice. To earn the love of my
mm,
mom, I needed to be different. So I got a people pleaser, especially for women.
yes.
And I had mainly female friends when I was younger. And that taught me a lot about like being emotional and so on. So it was not only negative, but I
Mhm.
always had like a deep mistrust in men. And when it
Wow.
came to my relationship, um, I brought this pattern into the relationship. So I always wanted to please my girlfriend, and I always wanted to do everything right. But at the same
Yeah.
time, and that's like the paradox, at the same time, I copied the mechanisms my father used. So I was pretty avoidant. I ran away. I searched
Mm.
for distance. So it was like a constant push and pull relationship. And from her side, that fitted as well because her father was also like distant to her.
Yeah.
So she searched that in me. And I mean, it took a couple of years. She was always a bit further in the whole self development and spiritual journey. So she could see patterns earlier than I could do it and was always
Mm.
pushing me there. Like, um, look at this and always bringing this stuff up. And I was like, you're only complaining about everything all the time because I
Yeah.
couldn't see the pattern.
Yeah.
And over the time, it led to two breakups. I was breaking up with her because I was thinking, okay, when she's always complaining and when she's
Yeah.
always pushing me away, maybe she's the reason why I feel so shitty.
Right.
And what I needed to learn was that was not the case. I
Yeah, it's
felt
just the
even
medicine.
yeah, I felt even shittier when I was without her. And after
Mm,
the second breakup, I felt something needed to change. And we talked about this before the podcast. It wasn't conscious for me. It wasn't that I knew, okay, I need to do self-development and so on. It was just like I felt like there was more depth
mm,
that I wanted to discover. I
yes.
saw more in my life than what I did until now, which was living pretty unhealthy, doing a lot of drugs, drinking a lot of alcohol, running away from every uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And I started with doing yoga because my partner did a lot of yoga in that time, and she always asked me like, "Oh, do you want to join?" And one day I said like, "Okay, why not?" And
Yeah.
I joined, and it was fun with her. And then we did this from then and now until I started to develop my own yoga practice because I couldn't name it, but it
Wow.
was like, okay, I felt better. I felt more connected to her, but also
Mm,
more connected to myself. And
yeah.
at some point, she didn't continue her yoga practice, but I did, and it got more intense. And after a while, I was like, okay, I need to do something with this, and I did a yoga teacher training. It was fascinating, and I started reading a lot about self development. But the funny thing is, I started developing a way better relationship to myself, which reflected in my relationship. But still, I wasn't I wasn't fully aware. I was still like trapped in like in those unconscious patterns. I wasn't aware
Yeah.
like about the whole dynamic I had with my mom and my dad and how this reflected in my relationship.
Mm,
So it got better, but still like those old loops were somewhere in my relationship and always came up. And she was always complaining that I didn't take responsibility, which shows up like I never planned something for us, I wasn't even booking the flights when we
initiative.
go to, yeah, initiative.
Yeah.
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 And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years ago, actually like 4 or 5 years ago, she gave me a book by Lauren
Yeah.
Cran, amazing guy. And it was called Understand Woman Better. And
Mm,
it is an amazing book. I read it a couple of weeks ago again, but when I read it back then, it was so overwhelming for me that I needed to quit
mm.
after 3 chapters. I was like, fuck, how can I ever become this perfect? And if she gives me this book, she obviously like she was demanding this from me. So like I can't be that guy for her. So
Aw.
I was thinking about about breaking up again
Yeah.
because it was way too much for me to bear. I
Yeah.
just thought, okay, I can't be that perfect. And yeah, when I read this book a couple of weeks ago, it was like, it was amazing because like I saw like that I integrated all those things in my life now, not to perfectionism, because I don't
Exactly.
believe like a good relationship is about being perfect. It's actually the opposite. It's about embracing the imperfection and always checking back in with yourself.
Yeah.
But this was like,
And accountability and
yes,
repair, which is where
yes,
you build even more intimacy, which is
yes.
all part of the beautiful journey of conscious love.
Yeah, but this
Wow.
this book like was like a soft start, or maybe not a soft
Yeah.
start, but it was like a
A
start
hard
because
start. No.
a hard start. But it I was pushing this all away from me, but at the same time something started to shift, and
Yeah.
I got
It
like and
planted the seeds
yes,
into
and
your psyche.
yeah,
And then over time, you were able to water those seeds and they
yeah,
sprouted. And now you have this beautiful garden of wisdom inside of you.
yeah. That's
That
it.
is amazing.
The real journey began like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when I was moving from Berlin to Mallorca,
Mm,
and I got like I got out of all my old friendships. It was like just
yes.
unrooted and planted somewhere. Yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
suddenly I was like, okay, who am I? And
Mm,
who do I want to be? Well, like away from all my old connections. And I started to
Yeah.
make new connections which were more aligned with me. Not saying like
Yeah.
I didn't broke all the old connections, but
Right.
it was I choose like new people and new influences which were more
Mhm.
aligned. But also like a little bit uncomfortable. I wouldn't do that back in Berlin. So, and that
Yeah.
was like the starting point for me to really go deeper. Okay. And really take a look. Okay. Where are all those patterns? How are my parents connected to how I show up in my relationship, and also to show up towards the son of my partner, because she brought a son into our relationship.
Wow.
And suddenly everything made sense. And I
Yeah.
started connecting with other men who are also on this journey. And at some point, I was like, a friend of mine started his own business around men's coaching. And I was like, everything he's talking about, I did this. I learned this. I walked this path already. I didn't
Yeah.
had like the fancy names for it, like and all the knowledge of book knowledge, but I just had
Yeah.
lived experience. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, I want to do the same. I want to help men on this journey because I found it so important. And yeah, it's so
It is so
yeah,
important. We
yeah,
need
so
more
important.
men sharing the journey
Yeah.
after walking it themselves. And I think there's something that we all know called the manosphere.
Mm,
And it's very loud and it's very toxic masculinity, in my opinion, where it's about, um, the masculine and feminine energies, where the feminine needs to be submissive to the masculine energy and needs to be a trad wife. And then the man controls everything in terms of finances and, the way that the household should be run,
mm,
and thinks that like the man is the hierarchical authority of the household and the woman is just there to be in service to give her um feminine nurturing magic to the house in service to the man.
mm,
Can you speak a little bit on that in terms of the difference between conscious love versus this old paradigm way
mm.
of what relationships are in terms of like the man is the head of the household,
Yeah.
etc.?
I think like it's funny because when you say like old paradigm, I think there is actually like what I am looking at is actually something really old, something really ancient,
I
from the
agree. Yes.
from the way of like as you said, like masculine and feminine energy. And I think it is just like it was just like confused with control. Masculine energy is not control; it is safety and stability. And
Mhm.
the what like the whole manosphere idea is you take all the true safety and stability and control away, and you just do the superficial stuff, finances, being stronger, like having everything in control. um it's like
Yeah.
what I see is like true masculine strength is being questioned and being open to look at this and to answer to this and to like talk about this. And fake masculinity in the manosphere is just shut down whoever questions you, so
Yeah.
nobody can like reveal your weakness. I think there is like in the manosphere is like the one example of like this fake masculinity and this and everyone thinks, okay, it's the old way of living and we need something new. And then we have like the other side, which I also
Mhm.
like see pretty dangerous, like that we think that women and men are completely equal. They have equal rights, definitely. They like that's not what I'm talking about. But
I get
women
what you're
and
saying.
men are not equal, and we need
Yeah.
to accept that. Both of them have like certain roles in a relationship, and
Yeah.
maybe it's maybe not even man and woman, but the masculine and the feminine part, because you have this
Yeah.
also in homosexual relationships, and you also
Yes.
can change this in a heterosexual relationship. Also, some
Mhm.
couples also have like that the woman isn't the more masculine part and the
Yeah.
man is the more feminine part. And that's totally fine if both of them are fine with it.
And I think what confuses those dynamics and keeps them stuck in like survival patterns and not in their authentic self is society's pressure on gender roles.
Mm,
And for example, if a woman is leaning more masculine in her natural essence, and society is telling her, you're never going to find a husband if you don't know how to nurture and be more feminine. And then now she's telling herself, oh, something's wrong with me, instead of
mm.
allowing herself to be more of her natural essence and her authentic self.
And I think we can't switch that. We can't like decide, okay, now I'm more masculine or more feminine. It's always an interplay between
Yeah.
those partners
Seasons
in a
of
relationship.
life
Yeah.
and yeah.
And I think like
Mhm.
especially for women in modern relationships, it's so common that men get avoidant around their whole emotional world and also around the whole thing about the household. That it's always like I bring home the money, I take care of like the finances and the
Mhm.
business, and you take care of the rest. What is the rest? The rest is a lot, and it's still expected. And we think like, okay, that's like the feminine role. It is not. It's not the feminine role to take care of everything but money. There is a lot of things where the man needs to take care of himself, you know, where the man needs to help, not only help out, because that's the wrong idea, to be a partner.
Yes.
And
And take responsibility for your
mm,
own household and your
yeah,
own environment,
yeah,
and really see it as your, like you said, a partner, not just, "Oh, I did the dishes, why is she still mad at me?" Like, "I
yeah,
did this, why is it not enough?"
yeah,
And because, like, we talk about bare minimum that, we're accepting in relationships, but what we're really asking is, we're tired of accepting the bare minimum in relationships, and
yeah,
what we really are desiring, I think, is more attunement, more accountability, like attunement, you having more attunement with your own emotional inner world so that we can actually build on a foundation of two people that know themselves so deeply that the surface level stuff that needs to get done is simply getting done because we are not avoiding our inner worlds. We have more
mm,
capacity for
mm,
the things that just like need to get. I think that when you spend your whole life, and not just your life, but ancestrally, generationally, the men have spent generations of avoiding their feelings and feeling like, oh, any ounce of vulnerability means that I'm not a man. And that gets passed down through the generations into modern men today. And they're completely unconscious to the fact that their body is holding on to all of this.
mm,
Um, and I
yeah,
think that's why men are at capacity where they say, "I'm overwhelmed." They kinda, like, shut out from here
mm,
down, where they stay very much
yeah,
in their mind and just, in a very analytical, surface level type of lifestyle.
mm,
So, like, it's actually the contrast that, like, tending to those parts of you is actually gonna give you more capacity to show up for
mm,
more.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's like, I think it's also like important to see that if we want to be like a full partner in our relationship, the most important thing that we can do is take care of ourselves and in a holistic way. You know, it's like if
Yeah.
you say it physically, emotionally, mentally, actually, like,
Spiritually.
yeah, spiritually, like, actually go into a relationship as if you were single and needed to take care of everything. Don't expect your partner to take care of things that you actually need to take care by yourself. If you go into a relationship that if it would end, you would be still like a complete person,
Yeah.
then you come into a partnership and not into a relationship like mother and son or, like
Yeah,
other dynamics.
survival patterns. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, what does that look like in practicality for people that are listening and say
Mm,
that they are in therapy and they think that doing that one session a week is them doing the inner work? But how do we
mm,
actually move from just talking about our dynamics with our parents to actually integrating the lessons that we're here to learn, and how can we actually change the dynamics in our relationships by doing more of that self-reflective
Mm.
work?
I think the most important part is to get in touch with your intuition and with your inner voice. And because I believe most, not actually every man and also woman knows somewhere deep inside what's right and what's wrong, where they're
Mm,
hiding. It's like, and sometimes it's not like that you instantly know this, that you're like, okay, this is where I have an old pattern and so on. It's just like, maybe it feels weird. Maybe you feel like, like this triggering from your partner. Maybe you feel
yeah.
like it's a little situation and you have a lot of emotions about it. And
Yeah.
those points you need to look at. And what helped me a lot was definitely reflective work like journaling, to really
Mm,
like sit down every day in the morning and just write down, okay, how am I feeling? What what am I feeling at the moment? And maybe is there a situation that's still in my head from yesterday? And then just write
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 about
about
it.
it, you know?
Yeah.
And over time it you develop a skill that you can take this away from your journaling to everyday life. Then you're suddenly like, okay, wait, I'm feeling like this in this moment. So definitely like have a practice where you can get closer to your inner voice and
So
do
good.
this every single day. And another thing is take a step away from pride. So like what hold me back and keep me stuck for such a long time was that at one point I could see that I did something wrong that wasn't aligned with what I actually wanted to be as a man. But I was I was still like, I didn't dare to admit that. I don't know, like I had a situation a couple of months ago, so not too far ago, where this showed perfectly how I changed. We were at a supermarket and the son of my partner just got, I don't know, something like some pens or something. Actually, my partner and I agreed like, okay, he has his pocket money to buy his stuff because he should get more accountable with his finances so he can learn this.
So good.
And we stood there and my partner was just like, Jacob, can you pay this and also this, like the pants he wanted to get? And I was like, hectic situation, and I paid, but I was like really pissed.
Yeah.
And I went out and I went silent. And my partner was like, everything okay, Jacob? And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. And 2 or 3 minutes later, I was like, wait, no, 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 actually, not everything is okay. I described the situation and I told her, like, what I thought is that you are disrespecting me because you are not keeping the agreement here. But actually, what I could see was that I had an issue with people not respecting me at all. And I was making a big thing out of a small. You know, like she was
Wow.
just stressed. She was just like, okay, just buy him this because like there are
Yeah.
thousands of people in line.
Yes.
So just let's get out here. We figure this out later. And I was like, I felt disrespected. And a couple of years ago, I would just like, no, no, everything's okay. And then I would just keep
And
it for myself.
internalize it.
And
Yes.
then resentment builds over time, you know? And
Yes.
that's what I mean. Like, and in this moment, I could see, okay, no, this one was on me. And then even if you said something else 5 minutes ago, when you realize it, just go back to your partner and said, I was wrong here. You know, like I said something else,
That
but I
that
was
is the
wrong here.
hardest.
And that's
That's
the
hard.
that's a practice every man needs to do. As soon as you see you did something wrong, even if you said something else before,
Yeah.
go back and say sorry and then work on this. Because
And that's
over
what you mean by
time,
the pride.
yeah, that's like
Put the
over
pride
time.
away.
Yeah, over time, this gap between you do something, you react to a situation, and you realize what's actually going on gets closer and closer and closer. At one point, it's like 5 minutes. And maybe in another point, it's just a deep breath. And then you're like, wait, I wanted to react this way, but I now react another way. And that's like the
Yeah.
practice. So get closer to your intuition and to your inner voice, and then
Yeah.
listen to this inner voice.
And then also then what I'm hearing from you is not only are you listening to that inner voice, but you're also in a relationship with it, of a back and forth conversation where
Mm-hmm.
that inner voice is saying, we had an agreement that got broken in this moment. And you could have stopped right there and blamed your partner and blamed,
Mm.
and been
Yep.
like, you know, what I'm hearing is fluidity.
Mm.
Like, yes, you had this agreement, but can we also factor in the real life situation and scenario where things can be a bit softened, where it doesn't
Mm.
have to be as rigid in the
Mm.
agreement?
Mm.
Can the agreement have time and place where there's a little fluidity?
Mm. Yeah.
And
Like
a
it's
lot of my
mm.
clients and, people I talk to are very much in the assumption, and I think it might be religious programming where everything has to be perfectly
Mm.
right or wrong. And if you break an agreement, now you are going to be punished, or
Mm.
there's there has to be consequences for this.
Yeah.
um and they step into the seat of, okay, now let me lead and teach my partner how this agreement was not held in full
Mm.
accountability.
Yeah. And also like sometimes this punishment also happens internally, you know, that's like that we are not that we are actually not inviting our partner to the whole process, that but that we are like, okay, I messed the situation up, and okay, but I don't talk to her right now, but like I punish myself, like with like, ah, you did this again, and you know, like, and this negative self-talk. And that's the problem. When you keep the whole thing internal, when you're not inviting your partner to the whole process,
Mm,
um, it's also so hard to be gentle, because everybody knows this. We talk to us internally in a language we would never use for someone else. Like,
yes.
we are judging ourselves. Like, would you write this down and read this to someone else? They would be like shocked. They would be like, wow.
Yes.
And that's the problem. It's way harder to
Inner
stay,
critic
yeah.
is,
It's a,
yeah.
yeah, and it's way harder to stay gentle and soft with yourself. And that's why I think a lot of men also give up at a certain point, because
Mm,
obviously when you talk to yourself like this, it feels really uncomfortable. And at some point you make the decision, do I want to stay this uncomfortable the whole time, or do I just push it away from me and go back to like
yeah.
the normal loop of reoccurring patterns in
And
my
the
relationship?
paradox there is that it's uncomfortable, yes, but only for a little while until
Mm.
that inner voice, that inner critic really learns how to be a partner to yourself
Yep.
and end up like that inner conversation that I was speaking to that you have so beautifully is that inner critic comes online, but then you're like in a conversation with it and it's like, oh, but what about this? And you're like, well, what about this? And it's like, it's beautiful to have that partnership with
Mm.
that inner, because sometimes it is there to protect us and like
Mm.
let us know when our boundaries are being crossed. Let
Sure.
us know when we are being disrespected by certain people. And, it can be useful, but I think it's like the ego needs to be in the passenger seat and not in the driver's seat.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
who needs to be in the driver's seat? Can you tell us, like, who is the one that is really driving and leading once you do this work?
Mm. It's a good question, because I think it is a combination. It is a combination. It's like I always see him like as this old wise man, you know, who has like who did all the steps in life. He was a little child. He was the warrior. He was diplomatic, and at some point he learned to integrate all those parts and
Mm,
to get them out at the right time. And sometimes you want to be diplomatic, even if it maybe violates your own boundaries, but you're
Yeah.
stable enough in this moment, you know, at some point, uh, you don't want to fight for your right with your partner because you see, okay, she is in a bad place. So it's
Mm.
maybe not time to fight. Maybe it's okay to just agree and to just be there for her and not to like fight like, but you said this differently last time, or I am right here, but just say, okay, okay, I understand what's actually going on beneath it, you know? And
Yeah.
sometimes you want to fight. Sometimes you need to defend your boundaries because your partner needs this, you know, because your partner wants to see your stability, wants to see that you're not doing everything for her if it's violating your own mission and your own life. So, and sometimes it's hard to see and to differentiate which part is needed right now. But I
Yeah.
think the closer you are with this inner voice in you, and the more you allow yourself to fail from then and now,
Yeah.
the better you can connect to which part do you need in this moment.
And
And
yeah.
and it's like
From
I really like to like think about this like as this old wise man, and to connect to this idea. Okay, what would this guy tell now? What would like the 80-year-old version of myself would say now? Is it worth it, or is it maybe worth to take a step back?
so good. And then let's talk about the 8-year-old self in you too,
Mm,
because I think a lot of this work has to do with remembering that the whole purpose of life is to have fun and to be in joy. And the whole purpose of relationships is for our inner child to play on this planet together and
mm,
choose each other in a way that, brings out this playful energy. So, how are you and your partner? Like, yes, we talk a lot about healing the inner child, but once you've really done that work and
mm,
really have come into this place of knowing them so deeply,
mm.
talk to us a little bit about the other side. Like, what do you actually get to experience in your relationship once these inner children and both of you are heard, seen, tended to? Now what?
Yeah.
Now, how does that 8-year-old show up?
That's a good question. It's like, and feels like you don't need to be afraid anymore. You're not you don't need to hide yourself anymore. And this was something I struggled a lot with in my past life and still am from then and now. So because I don't think like you heal your inner child, you recognize what your inner child needs to be
Yeah.
free, but those wounds will always be there. And that's totally
Yeah.
fine, you know? But what I really see in my relationship right now is I can be like fully myself. I can be completely stupid. Sometimes I can get tantrums. You know, like
Yep.
sometimes
We're
it's like,
human. Yep.
yeah, and it's totally fine. I know that
Mhm.
my partner will be there for me, you know, and
Mm.
that's like, and because I started to be there for me and I started to be accepting. And that's so nice because you finally can let go of all those guards, because that
Yeah.
those guards are consuming a lot of energy when you have
Yes.
to keep, because when you're, that's why a lot of men experiencing something weird, when they come into a relationship, they think, oh wait, why is everything so hard right now? When I was single it was so easy, because you're in connection right now, and now the first thing your inner child wants to do is putting up the guards. And that's why it feels so uncomfortable in the beginning. And taking down those guards and
Yeah.
allowing your inner child to feel, ah, okay, it's safe without the guards.
Yeah.
Then, then you start to play. Then you start to get brave in your relationship. Then you can start like talking about uncomfortable topics without them being so uncomfortable anymore. Then you can start acting silly, like you talk with yourself in your head. And I think everyone has like this voice in his head, you know, like doing like maybe funny little jokes from then and now and so on. But a lot of us don't dare to let this out. And a good
Yeah.
and safe relationship is letting those let at least your partner see the silly little version inside of you that is actually pretty funny and actually pretty lovable. But that's hard for
But
us to,
society says it's like immature or
yeah,
silly or whatever. So
yeah,
yeah, I agree. That is when you liberate that silly playfulness and you
yeah,
get to be witnessed in that authentic self from
yeah,
another human being, and another nervous system gets to hold that and enjoy it too. It's
yeah.
so healing.
And
Thank
it's
you for sharing that.
and what's so important is, to the whole topic of masculinity, we men always convince ourselves that being this silly is not masculine. And there we
Mm,
come back to the beginning with the whole manosphere. It is just distracting yourself from true masculinity. You tell yourself, okay, by not being that silly and by being serious all the time and by being like the strong person who never really smiles, who never shows like deep emotions, I'm masculine, so you don't have to look at the actual work. But when you take down this guard and allow yourself to be silly and to be playful in your relationship, you suddenly realize, okay, now I have a lot of energy to look at the real topics, to
mm,
become safe, to become stable, because you don't waste all the energy in hiding the whole thing.
yeah.
Like that
Which
feels
is
weak
so
in you.
exhausting.
Yeah.
So draining, so exhausting. Okay, so what would you say to people that are like, okay, I hear this whole conversation, it sounds great, but now why should I even bother getting into a relationship if all it is opening me up for this gruesome, deep inner work? Why should I sign up for that? Why not just stay single and
I'm
coast and enjoy my alcohol and my drugs and my,
I mean, like, I think maybe I don't believe in it, but maybe there are some person for whom this is the right path. But I think you feel why. You feel that there is an inner voice longing for this deep connection, and you feel like there is this little child, this little boy in you who actually wants to be seen, who actually is longing for deep down mom and dad seeing him. But mom and dad are not responsible for that anymore. Even if they
yeah,
do it now, they won't help you to heal it. The only way to heal it is that you take the role of your dad and your mom and
yeah,
show this little boy to someone else. And some of those wounds that have been created in your childhood only can be healed in connection. As I said
mm,
before, like when just because it's easier when you're single doesn't mean those wounds aren't there anymore.
yeah,
You just don't need to open them up because there are no trigger points. When a friend comes too close to you, you're like, okay, maybe we talk next month. But when you're in a relationship, it's a little bit harder to say like, and you live together. It's like you can't say let's talk next month. You need to look at
yeah,
this shit.
yeah. And I think who doesn't want to experience being fully known and feeling deeply connected and enjoying companionship with peace and harmony and growth and expansion? And I feel like that's the whole reason we're here on this planet, right? Like it's
Mm,
to experience the fullness of life and not to run and avoid and hide, because then you're just
mm.
going to have to come back and do it all over again in like a much worse
That's true.
situation, I think.
That's true. Like you can. That's a funny thing. Like as long as you're running, you will always being confronted with the same old problem, and you can do it for months. You can do it for years, and that's why so many people are just like jumping from one to the next relationship and are
Yeah.
surprised like why are all my partners the same? Yes, because you
Yeah.
stayed the same. And
Exactly.
as you said, like you can do it till the end of the life, then you take it to your next life and to your next life. You know, at some point you need to look at this.
Yeah.
And you can
Um,
decide to do it earlier or later.
yeah. It's a conscious choice at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Hmm.
Amazing. Well, Jacob, this was so wonderful. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your lived experience, for the stories that are so relevant to every human being on there. Something as simple as grocery shopping and getting triggered is so relevant to every human being on this planet. We're all out there grocery shopping with our partners and getting triggered. So thank you again.
Thank you so
Is there
much for inviting
how
me.
can my yeah, how can my audience find you? How can they work with you if they wanted to go deeper with your work? Where would be the best place to find you?
Okay, like the best place is Instagram, and you will link it probably somewhere in the show
Yes, it's
notes.
all in the show notes. It's
Perfect. So like Instagram is the best connection point to me, and you can find there my weekly newsletter. And also I'm hosting a live workshop. It's on the 2nd of August. You can find all the details on my Instagram page as well. Just go to my Instagram and you find all the information in the bio.
great. Is there any other pieces of wisdom that you'd like to bestow today, or are you feeling good?
Actually, just like wrapping up everything you do for your relationship, in the end, you do for yourself, because your relationship is just a mirror on how you treat yourself and how you live with yourself. So it's worth doing it. Anyways,
Yeah, I love that. It's all for our individual and collective healing. So thank you. All right, guys, check out Jacob's work. Incredible. His newsletter is actually even better. I am a big fan. It's on Substack. Go check it out. And yeah, Jacob, again, thank you so much.
thank you.